win of the season. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that the 49ers just beat the Dolphins with their third string quarterback. Let me say it again. The 49ers just not only beat, dominated the Dolphins with their third string quarterback. David and I are going to talk about it all next. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And it is a post game for the ages. The 49ers just whooped the Dolphins, and I could not be more happy. The ish that was talked this offseason by Dolphins fans on Twitter and leading up to this game, I cannot wait to watch all of them eat crow. David, how you doing tonight, my man?
Baby, I am okay. I'm on cloud nine. This is the most excited I've been all season long. I feel reinvigorated. I feel like this is, the Niners been playing well, but like this game to me, back against their wall, against a team with a worthy offense, had a couple hiccups and big plays, but boy, oh boy, like everybody came out all, cylinders firing, and this is a dangerous team. And can you believe it that this level of excitement, even with their third string quarterback still there, that should tell you something about this team.
I got to be honest with you. Listen, me and you have talked a lot about Purdy. You can talk about your experience with Brock Purdy and how you've known him for a long time. I've got tweets going back to 2020 where I talked about Brock Purdy before they drafted Lance, thinking that they would stay at 12. And I said, hey, Purdy, round 3, if he comes out, that's a guy I would look at. And then again last year, and a lot of people definitely hate on Purdy. But I got to say, as a rookie coming into that situation in a tough game, man, Brock Purdy really did the damn thing for sure today. Why don't you talk about your experience with Purdy? Because you have a unique one.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can see I'm repping my Iowa State. I went to the University of Minnesota, but I'm born and raised in Iowa. And my parents both went to Iowa State. My sister works at the university. My grandpa was a professor there. So I grew up cheering on Troy Davis, if you can remember him, a Heisman hopeful back in the 90s as a running back for the former New Orleans Saint. The really interesting thing here is that Brock Purdy, he's going to have his ups and downs, and he has ups and downs in college. He played all 4 years, and I would say regressed every year, but just never took the next step. And I think a lot of that had to do with Matt Campbell, who's the head coach. And so here's a guy who legitimately had first round chatter after his freshman and sophomore year of college. And then it just wheels started falling off a little bit. Confidence started going. And all of a sudden he's Mr. Irrelevant in the draft. And I honestly think, I'm not saying that I think Purdy is the next Steve Young. I'm not that guy. Okay. But the bottom line is, it's pretty criminal to me that Kyle Shanahan was able to get him the last pick of the 7th round. And he had the tools to work with. Yes, he doesn't have prototypical height necessarily, but he's not exactly tiny. He is a plus athlete. He has functional mobility in spades, and he has lots of confidence. And I think that's one thing that I saw him all game. You never saw him waver. And in fact, he made some mistakes, but there were also some pretty significant drops too. There's some miscommunications you're going to have when you're the third string quarterback going to the beginning of the season. Right. And he did not show that he was not ready for this moment against a team that first play from scrimmage took it to the house. Right. And I just think that I can't say enough about him. And I can't say enough about this team in general. And I have to tip my hat. I've been saying all year, Mike McDaniel's my coach of the year. And I don't know if I'm going to back off of that quite yet. If I'm number 2, I'm going to be honest. Kyle Shanahan, to me, as much as like I can critique and things like that, Kyle Shanahan to me showed, and I think he showed the rest of the NFL, that this guy, to have him ready in this situation, whether that's a credit to Kyle or credit to Brock or both, I'm just stoked. And I can't wait to talk more about it throughout.
Flav, my guy. Listen, the narrative around this team is they cannot win without Jimmy Garoppolo. They just had the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest win of this season without Jimmy Garoppolo. And that is not a knock on Jimmy Garoppolo. but this team is that damn good. Let's talk about Jimmy Garoppolo, because I will say this. When he went down, I know that we're all like, oh gosh, like, what are we going to see here? I know I talked a lot of crap with Dolphins fans, and I thought, oh no, Jimmy's out. Prayers up to him. I don't want to make speculation, but to me, when you rule him out, we saw that foot. To me, it looks like it's broken. We'll see what they say with the x-rays. Jimmy being out for a period of time, what are your thoughts with this team? Like, what happens now?
I mean, it would be absolutely ludicrous is not a hyperbolic word to sit there and say like that it's not a good thing that Trey Lance got injured. It's not a good thing that Jimmy Garoppolo is hurt, right? And I think that Brock Purdy is going to have some hiccups, and he wasn't perfect today, but you can't expect him to be. So yeah, this is going to be a setback on paper, right, for the 49ers. And I think realistically, like Jimmy, you could argue had been playing some of his best ball. I want to pump the brakes though a little. And I think this is a really good time to just talk openly about this. What you saw today, again, I want to be real blunt. This is not slander. When you can go in against one of the most, and Brock Purdy doesn't play defense. I get that. Okay. Brock Purdy comes in to play football within this offense, within structure. And Kyle at first didn't look like he was going to trust him, but actually as the game went on, he had him throwing on first down. He had him going for it in situations on fourth down, and that he hasn't done in the past with Jimmy under center. And I'm not going to overreact to that. But what I'm going to say is I think that this loss is significant because the quarterback room is completely bare now. It's Brock Purdy and nobody else. Maybe Jacob Eason kind of, we talked about that, comes in. Who knows what they've got up their sleeve, but it's not great, right? But I think what you see here is that in game management situations, which is exactly what Jimmy has been doing. Let's make no mistake about that. If we go back to the Arizona game, the 4 touchdown passes, this is yak, and more yak. Okay. And yeah, you got to make the throws. But Brock showed that he could come in, be trusted to run this offense in structure. Jordan Mason comes in, able to eat up those yards in the middle. Christian McCaffrey, despite a couple big drops, huge in the passing game. Ayuk, Debo looking like he's reborn again. And I think you're going to start seeing Debo get a lot more touches in the backfield as well. So sue me. I'm not that, maybe other people are losing sleep tonight. I'm not losing a wink. Like, I'm not that concerned about losing Jimmy Garoppolo. And if people want to pile on me for that, that's fine. I'm not.
I'm not concerned about losing Jimmy Garoppolo from the standpoint of we're going to have this major drop off at quarterback. I'm concerned about losing Jimmy Garoppolo because of the depth.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Now, if Purdy goes down, now what? And that's where the real concern comes in. Let me say this real quick. I got a couple super chats and I appreciate it. This is another charity stream, so please do not give me any money. I will try to get through as many comments as possible, but I do have a link pinned to the top of the chat. It is for Make-A-Wish. Right now, they are matching 5 times whatever you donate. So if you donate $5, they'll donate $25. If you donate $50, you're going to get $250 donated in your behalf. So please do not give me any more super chats. Donate to the link that is pinned in the top of the chat. This is a charity stream. I appreciate the super chats, but please, no more money my way. Give the love to Make-A-Wish. It is the holiday season, especially. So let's talk about it real quick. So GTC Real says, let's go. David, change the Twitter profile pic. You'll get more attractive bots DMing you. What a win. Hey, you had that Purdy one for a long time. Long time. You changed it. And then now what?
No. And I saw people, they started crimping. They started stealing my thunder over here. I did the Larry David Purdy thing as soon as he was drafted. I was drinking a little bit that night. I went on the spaces. I was going ape. And so I want to let people to know I trademarked that, and that better start hitting. I need that clout.
Yeah, you definitely need that clout. You were chasing it tough with that one. Joey says, this is where it gets interesting. All right, let's talk through all the scenarios real quick. If Jimmy is out for the season, how soon can Trey come back? Let's freaking go. Keep up the awesome coverage. Okay, so now let's look at it from this perspective. We thought the moment that Elijah Mitchell hit the IR that it was over for Trey. We talked about this actually, I think yesterday or today, that if he hits the IR, it's over for Trey. And we've heard Shanahan and Lynch say the same things. Let's assume Jimmy is now done for the season, done for the whole year. Now what do you do? Now what do you do? Like, are you in a situation where you're not trying to rush Trey back, but now it's like, okay, we kind of got to have Trey however they want to play it just to have the depth that they can trust or come in as the starter, whatever. What do you do with this quarterback situation, assuming that Jimmy is done for the year?
I mean, so this is the thing I need clarity on this myself. Mm-hmm. So there is still a window there for Trey, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So here's the situation. I'll lay it out so everybody knows. You have 8 people that you can bring back from IR. You can bring a player back twice, meaning Elijah Mitchell can come back a second time from IR. Right now, they have used 6 of those 8 spots. We assume the final 2 spots are going to be for Kinlaw and for Elijah Mitchell. That is the assumption. However, now what do you do? Who do you forego, if anybody? What do you do with that decision? I don't know. I think this situation makes it really, really tough.
Look, I think that I am on board saying I don't want to. I just got done tweeting about this. Trey Lance is not going to be 22 years old forever. I think everybody thinks like, oh my God, he got hurt this year and he was a little bit raw in certain situations, which he still played pretty well in my estimation. He's not. They drafted him to be on the Niners for a long time, right? So I don't want to sit here and sacrifice his health short term for a long-term investment. That being said, if he has gotten medical clearance from inside and outside the building, and you have an opening, and now Jimmy's out, I can't see it being anything but prudent to have that spot waiting for Trey Lance if called upon. And let's put it this way. I'm gonna say this right now. Brock Purdy, there's going to be some games the 49ers lose. Okay. A game, maybe not. But I think there will be, right? Teams lose football games. And I'm not saying it's going to be exclusively because of Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's going to I think he's going to afford himself well. But I think it's a lot to ask for him to come in here and just be spotless throughout. It's normal. So you can't go in. I mean, to have that quarterback room just be Brock Purdy and, a box of rocks isn't going to work. So yeah, I'm all on board. And this is the thing. I know Kyle has said X. Kyle has said X throughout his career and done the other thing. So has John Lynch and on down the line. I think it would be prudent if he's ready in the playoffs to come back in January and play. I'd like to have. I wouldn't mind having that open, and I don't think it's going to really hamstring the team that much to have Trey Lance. Even let's say you leave it open for Trey Lance and he doesn't end up playing. That's not going to kill the team. That's not going to kill your Super Bowl chances. That's not what puts you out. So I think because Jimmy's out, it opens this up into a whole other different conversation.
Okay, so let's say this. Let's assume Trey can't come back, or they're not going to bring Trey back. Let's look at all scenarios. All right, Jimmy is out, let's say 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, he misses the rest of the regular season, but is ready to come back for the playoffs. Let's say the 49ers, what do they have? 5 games left. They go 4-1 down the stretch with Purdy. What do you do then? Jimmy comes back healthy. Do you turn it back over to Jimmy, or do you roll with Purdy?
I obviously, if Jimmy is healthy, the right thing to do. I'll say this. Jimmy has been playing to the best of his ability. Okay. If Brock Purdy today, again, his numbers look deflated because he had a couple missed throws, but there was also a couple significant drops. Okay?
For sure.
That bottom line is he made some dots. And I'm talking the placement on some of these throws, the zip on some of these throws, the elusive mobility and functional mobility, ridiculous, right? If he comes out and plays well against the Bucs and wins the game at Seattle against the Commies on Christmas Eve, and you've got some momentum going with that, and he shows you that he adds another element in his functional mobility, like I talked about. Mm-hmm. Is it really? I think the Niners would definitely have to go back to Jimmy. I'm not saying I think that within a lot, I think that's what they would do. Let's be honest. I think that Jimmy's healthy. They're going to play him. And for all intents and purposes, Jimmy healthy and playing in the way that he's playing is probably the smart call. Okay. That being said, how much house money do you want to play with? And I think that's ultimately the decision. Today, I saw Kyle, you know how he is, slow to trust, but that changed pretty quickly. And I think once he saw what I saw, I mean, in the huddle, on the sidelines, talking people up, like out there, like with some attitude, looking like he belonged. I think Kyle saw that. And I think Kyle's like, F it. We're going for it on 4th down from the 39-yard line. Things he did not used to do with Jimmy, even when he was healthy in games with playoff implications. And make no mistake, just because this was an AFC opponent, this game mattered. Okay.
Oh, this was a litmus test. This was the litmus test for the rest of the season, in my opinion. And
now the 49ers are sitting there at 8-4, right? I mean, like, they're in a great spot. They're in an insane spot. And so I think I'll say this. I will not make any guarantees. And I will tell you, if Brock Purdy affords himself, I will tell you, I thought Brock Purdy came in and replaced Jimmy Garoppolo with ease. I didn't see any big time wrinkles. I didn't see mistakes he made, the same mistakes I see Jimmy make.
I'll say this. I don't know how it's gonna play out, but it wouldn't be the 49ers without a quarterback controversy of some sort, right? So whether it's Purdy and Trey, Purdy and Jimmy potentially, I think that there's a lot of fun to be had down the stretch. Here's what I would say. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo, first of all, Jimmy Garoppolo is the backup quarterback. Like, let's just look at this season. Jimmy Garoppolo is the backup quarterback, not the starter. So if Purdy takes over and plays well and Jimmy comes back, say week 17, 18, and the 49ers are rolling with Purdy, I don't think they have to give the job back to Jimmy at all. I don't see any reason why they would have to give it back to Jimmy. He's not even the starter. People said if Trey was able to come back as the starter of this team, if Trey came back, you don't give the job to him. You let Jimmy go because they're rolling. Why would it be any different between Purdy and Jimmy? That's my point. So I don't know how it's going to play out. Chat, maybe one of you can tell us the update on what they say with the injury, if anything. But if Jimmy misses the next 4 to 6 weeks and comes back either late in the regular season or right as the playoffs start and the 49ers are winning with Purdy, I'm rolling with the hot hand, man. I am rolling with the hot hand. There is no reason. Just like I said, if Trey came back and they're winning with Jimmy, you roll with Jimmy. The scenario doesn't change. The players may, but the scenario, in my opinion, doesn't change. You roll with whoever's hot. And if they are winning with Purdy, by the way, came into an intense situation early in the game, did a lot. Yes, it was not perfect. I agree with that. It was not a perfect situation. He was not a perfect player. I understand that. But you're talking about a kid who had never played any significant time in the NFL, came right off the bench, and he did well. He did really, really well. And now they're going to have a week most likely to prepare with him as the starter. I'm curious to see what it looks like going forward when he has a week to prepare as the starter. I'm just curious to see. Maybe Purdy sucks. Maybe it was luck. Maybe he, who knows? But for right now, if this is the Purdy that they're going to get for the rest of the season, I'm rolling with this guy because he's mobile. Also, he adds the ability to be mobile. And I think that is huge. That is huge for this team. So we'll see how it plays out. But there is a lot of wild stuff that can happen down the stretch of this season. I will say that.
Well, and let's just say this: that one interception that he threw, that was a fourth down conversion, and he made a play. He made a throw to Ayuk. I wish teams would do this more often. I've been saying this since time immemorial. Go ahead, get your guy on a look, and try to make a play downfield. And if you throw a pick inside the 20-yard line, who cares? Like you were going for it anyway, so it's like you punted it inside the 20. Like Mitch Wishnowsky did his job. Like, honestly, it wasn't a horrible ball. It just, it happened. And the cool thing about that is he bounced back, and after that made so many different great throws with timing, with pressure in his face. And the one quibble we had, I think people were ragging on Mike McGlinchey on one particular play, but it was one of those things where McGlinchey actually did his job at pushing the edge rusher around, and Purdy kind of backed up into it. That happens, right? Well, I mean, these are things that NFL quarterbacks do all the time. So, yeah, I'm with you. We got to get this. Jimmy Garoppolo was the backup quarterback. People need to remember this. Jimmy Garoppolo was the backup quarterback, no matter any other way you want to spin it. He's the backup. And so this idea that like he deserves the job, we need to remove that from like, I don't understand that mindset. Nobody's owed anything. And I think that if Brock comes out and plays well, this team looked like they were sure. I mean, they looked like they had no problem playing for Brock Purdy today. And so, look, like you said, it might not be all roses and rainbows. I fully expect it not to be. But the bottom line is, I think this defense is good enough. If they can, we're going to talk about this later. If they can limit this big play, right? There are some things that need to be tied up there in the secondary. But if they could do that, and you've got your offensive line and good pass protection, and you have the weapons at their disposal, I don't think it's really a step down that much as people like to think it is.
Well, I'll say this. For me, at the very least, this narrative that came out today with Ian Rappaport that, oh man, the 49ers and Jimmy might be able to blah, blah, blah. First of all, it was a bunch of what ifs, maybes, possiblies. But this narrative that they have to bring back Jimmy now, I think Purdy just threw that all out the window, because you've got Trey and you've got Purdy. Why are you going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo $20-30 million to do essentially what these other guys can do? I think that we can squash that now. That at the very least, I think we can squash that. If Purdy is the backup behind Trey, I feel really good about that. Like, I feel really, really good about that after what I saw today. So that's me. I think that at the very least can be squashed. Go ahead. If you had something to say real quick.
Well, I was going to say that you talk about that contract situation. There's a couple different things with this. One, Jimmy's a free agent after the season. And based on a clause in his contract, the 49ers cannot, even if they got really drunk at the bar and like said, let's go to Vegas, they can't franchise him. Okay. Yep. So the bottom line, this isn't even like the 49ers have zero leverage, like none in this situation. If 100%. Jimmy were to have any value, which let me tell you, he's not going to have as much as you think, like he never has. Okay. But they're not going to be in the ballpark. So this is such a non-story, and like, it's like clockwork, churning engagement, whether it's Schefter, whether it's Rappaport, whether it's Colin Cowherd, whether it's my drunk uncle, from Kansas City. Like it's just, this is what people do. And it's insane.
Absolutely. Double B Studios, it looks like you threw out a couple super chats. I appreciate it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to reiterate this again. Pinned at the top of the chat is a charity of this week's choice, Make-A-Wish. Whatever you donate to them directly doesn't come to me. Money goes straight to Make-A-Wish. They are matching 5 times whatever you donate. So if you donate $5, they're going to donate 25. If you donate $50, they're going to donate $250. So please do not give me super chats. Even if it's $2, like in Double B Studio situation, $2 can turn into $10 if you donate it to them. Money will go a much further way given to them than it will to me. I appreciate the love, but do not give me any more money today, please. Double B Studio says, why couldn't Kyle give Trey this offense? Funny that you say that, because I text David after the first couple drives, said, wow, this looks like the offense maybe they should have given to Trey Lance. This rolling him out to one side, giving him the high-low reads, allowing him to use his feet a little bit without getting clogged up the middle. I don't know. Kyle's an interesting dude. And Kyle, you talked about Purdy coming in and they're going forward on fourth downs. They did the same thing with Trey Lance last year. As soon as Trey Lance came in for it against Arizona, they started going forward every fourth down. It's weird. It's strange.
And let me say this though, Marco, our guy Marco, he's, if you're not following Marco Martinez, you're doing it wrong. So I just want you to tell people to go do that. But the bottom line is, there was a lot of talk, that offense was going to start opening up, and in that game. Right. Kyle was kind of setting things up. And like we've known, Kyle's kind of slow to trust. He's trying to feeling things out, setting things up. He did the same thing at the beginning with Purdy in the game. And then all of a sudden he let go, a little bit. and it was a little conservative in between the tackles. I'd like to see Christian McCaffrey and the weapons utilized out of the backfield a little bit more like he used to in years past. But I think that it was going that direction. And I think Kyle's ready to say, now this is going to be interesting. I think everybody's thinking, well, now Kyle's going to go super conservative because Jimmy's out. Kyle was super conservative with Jimmy. Okay. So this idea that I think you're going to maybe see him throw a little bit more caution to the wind, because he's thinking, if we're going to score points and we're going to count on this, no knock on Brock, that we're going to need a little more creativity. We're going to need a little play with some more house money. And I think it's just exactly what the doctor ordered, to be quite honest. And so I cannot wait to watch these next couple games. I'm going to be in Christmas Eve game against the Commanders. I'm geeked. I'm excited finally to see like what Kyle's going to do. And I think the Niners are going to do well.
Absolutely. You guys are at each other's neck. That nothing separates the 49er fan base more than the quarterback position. And you guys are doing a great job of letting that happen again. I will say this, we're going to talk about it. We have to talk about it. It could turn into a big story. We'll see what happens with the injury going forward, but we should all feel really good because the 49ers just beat the piss out of the Dolphins. The Dolphins had, really with Tua playing, I think the number 2 overall offenses in terms of points scored per game with Tua. They had been undefeated going into this game with Tua when he started and finished a game. And yes, they gave up some big plays that made that thing interesting. But overall, the 49ers absolutely just dominated and showed that they are absolutely 100% unequivocally for real. We can say that now, absolutely, especially this defense. So, all right, we talked about 2 scenarios with the quarterback position. What if Trey comes back? What if Jimmy comes back? What do they do? All these scenarios. Let's assume they do roll with Purdy for the rest of the year. The other guys are out. It's Purdy's team. However you slice it. Does your opinion of this team of with Purdy as the starter versus with Jimmy as the starter, does your opinion of this team and how far they go change for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Why shouldn't it? Like, this is okay. I'm just going to be real here. There's absolutely, I'm a teacher. You work with any, like, the idea of differentiating, right? Differentiating instruction based on, students. You talk about the idea of equity versus equality. Not all kids require or need the same. Some of them need more. Some of them need a little bit of a boost. Some of them need to have scaffolding in different areas, right? There also, that goes with expectations. No, there's baseline expectations of character, right? Of ways, but depending on what a kid has in their home life or coming at different places, there is a different metric of how you judge a student's progress. It's the same way that you would look at a player. And this idea that I'm going to sit here and sit there and be like, yeah, I am going to give Brock Purdy a longer leash than a 30-year-old, 8-year veteran in the NFL who's been with the team since 2017. Yes, I'm going to do that. And so that being said, you're seeing me live tweeting or we'll be at the game. I'll levy my critiques. I'm not going to sit here and be a jerk about it either way. But yeah, Brock Purdy deserves more benefit of the doubt. That's a no-brainer. And I think in a lot of ways, I just don't see Brock Purdy, though, in my estimation, from watching him play in college. And I haven't missed an Iowa State football game since I can remember. Okay. Brock Purdy left a lot on the table at Iowa State. I'm not going to lie about that. And the thing that we miss about in college, those of you draft junkies out there, is that guys like PJ Fleck from my alma mater at the University of Minnesota, who should have signed Trey Lance, but went for Tanner Morgan instead. How'd that work out? Right. Matt Campbell seems like a wonderful human being, loves his kids, wears his heart on his sleeve. But quarterback play regresses every year. He has another quarterback this year named Hunter Deckers, who's getting second round, first round chatter. He regressed every game. Okay. Some college coaches don't do these guys justice. That's why scouting matters. And so Brock Purdy's in this situation, be as it may, coming into this game is a guy who basically went undrafted. Let's be honest. He basically went undrafted.
Yep,
okay.
He did.
How on the hell do I not give him more benefit of the doubt and judge this team on the way that they pursue the year. If in fact Jimmy Garoppolo is out for the season and Brock Purdy is asked to lead this team. And by the way, at 8-4, it would take a minor miracle for the 49ers to miss the playoffs at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you can quote me on that, but I'm gonna be honest. Like the worst they can do right now is 8-9. That's it. And they're not going to do that. They just face the Miami Dolphins, maybe the most dynamic, the most explosive offense in the NFL. Give up 17 points.
Yep.
That's with them going for it on fourth down multiple times. And that's with 2 big-time plays with blown coverages. And they still have less than 350 yards total offense. Think about that. 2 like 60, 70-yard touchdown passes, and they had less than 350 yards total. This defense is legit, folks. And so all they have to do is like, I'm sorry, yeah, I'm going to have more patience with Brock Purdy. Yes.
Yeah, we have to. We have to, because he's basically an undrafted rookie. He was Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft. It's an amazing story. And as much as we talked about, hey, I'm curious.
Breaking news.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jimmy Garoppolo is out for the season.
What happened? What is it?
Garoppolo has broke his foot, and he is done for the season. Out. He is done.
That's it. That's the last we've seen of Jimmy Garoppolo on this team.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, brother. But I just thought
I'm glad you did.
I thought we needed to get that out there before I think it might kind of alter the path of our discussion.
Yeah, let's here, let me change this real quick. That's it. Yeah. I mean, that's it. So now, oh my gosh. Okay.
Can I just say something now? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to kick a guy with her down, but let me just so let's bring back the Ian Rappaport story today. Okay.
Yep.
Jimmy Garoppolo has not gotten, so 2017 he played the last 5 games.
Yep.
Okay? Taking that out because that wasn't a full season. In the last 5 seasons, there has been one season, 1 out of 5, where he's made it through healthy. And I do not blame him for that. I don't. That being said, I think it's fair to say that at some point, freak things can happen. When 80% of your fully started, your seasons where you entered as, and you could say this one wasn't entered as a starter, but for intents and purposes, it seems like it has. He came in week 2, right?
Yeah.
80% of your seasons with the 49ers, where you were from the beginning of the year, you don't make it through a season. I don't see, like you just said, Jesse, I think that's another cap where people have to like really pump the brakes. I don't think the demand is going to be there like people think in the offseason. I think there'll be people willing to spend money as the cap goes up to have a nice bridge quarterback if they're drafting somebody else. But part of this needs to come into, I feel like other people get that moniker of injury prone, and it is almost as a pejorative. And I'm not sure why Jimmy has escaped that. And I don't think people really talk about that enough. And I think prayers are up for Jimmy. Like it sucks to have, like, we've all had injuries. I'm an active person, former endurance athlete and coach, and nothing makes me more unlivable in my house than when I am laid up. Right? I don't wish injury on anyone. It's the worst. And I think this being said, the 49ers now, what this does, the Band-Aid is off and it's full steam ahead with whatever contingency plans they can do, they can cobble together.
They're playing with house money now. Now the 49ers are playing with house money. I mean, realistically, God, dude, this sucks. This freaking sucks. This sucks. Because again, it's not, we just talked about, how in a scenario that if Jimmy could come back, that you would still roll with Purdy. Like, it's not Jimmy's team by any means. And I agree with that. But man, you sure would like to have the depth. You would like to have the depth. And just on a personal level, like, Jimmy was set to be a free agent. If he had stayed healthy the rest of the season, let's say he ended up leaving the 49ers or whatever, like, this is his last real chance possibly to make good money for him on a personal level. And now, like, now what? Like, now what? I don't know. I just, different scenario than Trey, but you still have to feel bad for the person. I'm sorry. That's just the way that it is. You never want injury. So yeah, go ahead.
And it looks like he has a Lisfranc injury, but he also, his presser, Kyle Shanahan said, quote, he broke a few things. This is via Kyle Posey at Niners Nation. So he's going to need surgery. He's not going to be here. Playoffs, it's out, right? So this is why you gotta watch Last Second Sports at the end of the, we get this as we're talking about it. I'm not gonna lie. I think in a lot of ways it makes things like he's more clear, right?
It does. Yep.
Right. Like, and so you're sitting in a situation. It's not good to have a quarterback room of Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. That's what Grant Cohn joked about. Like, yeah, somebody asked who the backup quarterback is after Brock Purdy, and Grant said Kyle. I mean, I don't know. I honestly don't have any idea. Like Juwan Jennings, I think he played a little quarterback in high school.
Kyle Juszczyk.
But yeah, they're going to need, I know in Jacob Eason, you can say whatever you want. I can't think that Kyle Shanahan is going to just go. I mean, he's got Brock. That's the next question is, where do you go? Where do you go for a veteran backup? The pickings are pretty slim on December 4th. So yeah, it's, and I think this is the thing though. I heard a couple people say, hey, if Jimmy goes down, the season is over. I took umbrage with that. For different reasons, right? Like I don't, maybe it's, I'm not thinking like that. I didn't think, I'm one of the few people that had the temerity to say, I don't think that the 49ers are really going that far with Jimmy as the starting quarterback, as far as like in the Super Bowl. I think they can win with pieces around him. I did. I always concerned about his health. I've privately been texting that for weeks about my concern that I don't think he will make it through the season. He has not. And that, I think that when push comes to shove in certain situations, it is what it is. So I'm actually looking forward. Like now, this is the only, I wouldn't even call this a silver lining. The only way you look at this is Brock Purdy now gets those reps and period. And it's just like, you're our guy. Trey Lance is hurt. And until he comes back or is able to come back, there's nobody knocking on the door. So this is what Brock Purdy gets, what Trey Lance wanted.
Right. That's true.
Brock Purdy gets to go at this with nobody breathing down his neck. Brock Purdy gets to go. And I'm going to tell you this. People say, iron sharpens iron and people perform better when they're under stress. No, they don't. Okay. But the best colleagues I've ever had, the people I've been most impressed with in my career, perform better when people show absolute confidence in who they are and go to bed knowing that that's their job in the morning and they are trusted to do it. And I believe in what I do, but I don't do that well when I'm doubted, like serially by people that have authority over me, right? Like it's stressful. I don't care who you are. So I would say silver lining, but that's going forward. It's Brock's show.
I don't even know who's out there right now. Like I'm trying to find a list of players that are
Jacob Eason. I mean, they had talked about bringing him in. I'm not doing cartwheels, but like
no. But this is a real thing because it's not just Brock Purdy. It's like the backup becomes important. We've seen it happen twice already this season. The backup becomes important. So Cam, I mean, I'm not excited about that. But what else is there? I don't know who else is out there. That's it. Yeah, I mean, that's listen. I love Kaepernick. You're looking at. Right, but this man hasn't been in the league in 5 or 6 years. Look at Deshaun Watson struggling after sitting out a year, and this was a guy who 18 months ago was a top 5 quarterback in this league. You've got to respect the NFL more than that. You bring in a guy like Cap who had all the talent in the world and all those things. You can't expect that he's up to speed on anything. I mean, you come in this late in the season after sitting out, 5 seasons now? I don't think that's realistic. That's just me personally. That's a guy that you bring in. Oh, this shit's interesting right here. He did say that he was keeping his options open for a playoff team.
Well,
that is an interesting name. That is an interesting name.
Yeah. Drew Brees, are you on speed dial? I mean, people think this sounds crazy, but I mean, what else do they have? There's nothing. How do you pry? Like I think Rich was talking about, how do you pry Nick Mullins away from the Vikings? What gets in? You can't, because you can't trade for anybody unless the trade deadline is over. You're looking at other guys like your CJ Beathard's, your guys that know your system. They're CJ's in the Jags, right? Like there's no way to do that. And so it's like you get this far. I honestly, I'm gonna start racking my brain here during and after this show. But here's what I want to say: stop racking your brain, because at this point, it should be over. Look, by all intents and purposes, right? When Mr. Irrelevant is starting for you as a rookie, for any team in the NFL, that should be it. I don't give a shit if you're the number one defense in the league, like the 49ers are. I don't care if you're great in pass protection, which, contrary to what a lot of people believe, the 49ers are very good at.
Yep.
I don't care if you've got the weapons around you. If Mr. Irrelevant, we're not talking about Jordan Mason. We're not talking about Matt Breida, okay? We're not talking about undrafted free agents, Jeff Wilson, the running backs like Raheem Mostert, like that can go in through. When Mr. Irrelevant as a rookie is starting for your NFL franchise, regardless of your record, your season should be over, right? So I think what the 49ers need to do in this situation is do what they can. But the reality is you're not going to get somebody better at this point. You're just not. And so the fall off of that is, what are you going to do? Is it really, like, honestly, all the teams, there's 31 other teams in the NFL. Are the 49ers winning the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy?
I mean, that would be a tall order. No, I would say no. I would say no.
Right? No, it's not happening. So the bottom line is, at this point, you just go in and you say, every week we prepare like we always do as professionals, and we're going to do our damnedest. And they're going to. And they're going to make the playoffs. And they're going to win the division.
Yeah, and they're probably going to win maybe a game or two in the playoffs, believe it or I mean, regardless of what's going on, the Phillip Rivers thing intrigues me. It really does, because he did say he's open to coming back to a team that is contending later in the season. This is that exact scenario. And I'm not saying you bring in Phillip Rivers and you start him next week, but if you can get on the horn with Phillip Rivers, bring him in, let him learn this offense, be the backup for a few weeks, and assess Purdy. If Purdy's playing good, you let him continue to play. But man, that's not the worst option in the world. I'll say that. That is not the worst option in the world. A guy that I didn't even consider. So shout out to you, a guy called Ed. And David, we here, David Sir, we are considering Trey. We've talked about it. Everybody else seems to say that this thing's over. Well, listen to what Shanahan said, and listen. I have not put it to rest that Trey could potentially come back. That is not at all anything that's come out of my mouth. I'm trying to run through all scenarios now that we know that Jimmy Garoppolo is out. We did talk about the Trey scenario very, very early in this conversation. And now we're saying, okay, well, what if Trey can't come back? What are the options? What do they do? I don't know. One thing that we definitely got, in my opinion, and it sounds like your opinion, David, is clarity on the future. I think it's safe to say at this point that Jimmy is done in a 49er uniform. Shout out to him. Prayers go to him, but it's over. Like this is what we're dealing with now. We've got Purdy, and that's what it is. Gammon says, time to lace him up, Coach Greasy. Yeah, that's all right. Well, not a good situation. We'll say that. We don't know who the backup quarterback's going to be, but right now things are very, very interesting. I still have a lot of confidence in this team. They just got a hell of a win, and I'm not going to let anything get in my way as far as my excitement for tonight, at least. We'll worry about the rest later. Reminder, though, Gammon, everybody else, please do not donate money to me. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. We are doing a donation stream, a charity stream. If you give any money to Make-A-Wish Foundation, they are matching it times 5. So if you give $5, they're going to give $25 towards the charity. If you give $50, they're going to give $250. So if you can, show them love, not me. I do appreciate it, but I want to reiterate what's going on. Okay, we're not going to have all the answers at the quarterback tonight, but we do have a full team. We got to talk about this full team. Man, this defense, I think there would have been a lot of question marks the way this game started, very interesting. One play, 75-yard touchdown right out the gate. It didn't look fantastic early on. They did get beat late with Hufanga trying to cheat up the middle as well. But for the most part, man, they just held the number 3 offense in the league and really the number 2 offense when you look at the team scoring wise with Tua at the helm in the league. They put a full stranglehold on this team's speed. What's up, David?
Well, no, and I was just going to say, aside from the 75-yard pass from to Sherfield and the 45-yard to Tyreek, so the Dolphins did have 6.8 yards per play, right? But that's inflated. So this is why you can't box score scout, because and also I will say this, there were a lot of plays that the Dolphins left on the field because Tua was overthrowing and sailing balls for at least the first 3 quarters of the game. And I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on. Like, and you said it in your show before, right? That deep ball being an issue. And not just, we're not talking about like, hey, Mary outs. Like, we're talking about pushing the ball down. Tua missed a lot.
He did.
On some plays where players had massive amounts of separation. And so I'm not saying that I'm like that worried about our secondary in that regards. I think they can tighten that up. I think they have. And I think that it's one of those situations, though, that regardless of that, they had 6.8 yards per play, yet 2 of those were huge plays. And the Dolphins had 308 total yards of offense. 308. Okay. So if you look at the Dolphins, if we go through what they're, going into week 14, even with this game, okay, the Dolphins going in play next week at the Chargers, they average on total 400.6 yards per game. We held them to 3/4 of that today. The Niners did, right? I'm sorry. Like, even with 2 huge touchdown passes of broken coverage, this defense has shown that they can take on anybody. They've shown that. And I think that they're not going to face the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tom Brady ain't washed, by the way, folks, but they're not the Miami Dolphins offensively. Okay.
But they are much better defensively, and that is going to be a test for one Brock Purdy for sure.
Yes, but as far as defense goes, I think that you're going to see a pretty low-scoring game next week. Yes,
I agree.
To that point. And I think that's at home. I think that if they – what did they do today? How many turnovers did they get? 3. Right? Yeah. Or they missed – or 4. Yes, so is the green Bosa strip sack with the Greenlaw, scoop and score.
Four. I think when we left, they put in their backup quarterback or third string, and he threw a pick too. So
right. So but then you had the Diamond Lenoir, and then you had the amazing Jimmy Ward interception, the absolute ridiculous.
Love that pick.
And just can I just say this? Like, I've been standing Jimmy Ward since he was drafted. I love him. He's an all-time top 10 Niner for me. I don't care. People can say otherwise. It's my. I'm a fan, right? Like, I think he's the single most underrated San Francisco 49er of all time. I know that sounds like hyperbolic. I completely believe it. And the play that he made on that ball today is just another reason why this defense is going to keep playing the way that they are. And if you really look at the next several opponents, you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are not doing much offensively. You've got the Seattle Seahawks, who week to week, today they came in against a really beat up Los Angeles Rams team, and eked out a win in a stadium with no home fans. You've got but that's going to be a test in Seattle. You've got the Commanders, who managed to score 20 points against the Giants in overtime and tied. Okay. Then you've got, the Raiders and the Cardinals afterwards. These next 3 games, I really, really do believe, even with Brock Purdy, if the defense is playing well, I believe they can win those games. And if they can win if they can win 2 of those games, if they can just win 2 out of the next 3 games, they don't have to worry about the last 2 games of the season. And by that point, they can start thinking about, like, how are we getting ready for this playoff run? And so that's going to be huge. And I think it's a game at a time. But I think this defense is absolutely legit. And I think they're going to show that next week against Tom Brady. Tristan Wirfs has been hurt. He's still out, correct?
I believe he missed today as well. I don't know for sure.
They play tomorrow. They play on Monday night.
I mean, not today. Sorry, tomorrow. I'm assuming he's going to be out tomorrow. But yeah, I don't know. Who we'll see. We'll see. Even if Tristan Wirfs plays, that offense is not doing great. Right. So they can now that what they can do is beat you over the top still. And we saw that was a little bit of an issue today, but they're not humming on offense. That is not a team that scares me offensively. Although Tom Brady, you can never count him fully out for sure. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But this defense is elite. And the two weaklings, interestingly enough, the weaklings that everybody talks about, they talk about Jimmy Ward, who's playing out of position. I think we all can agree he's probably still playing out of position. So he's a weak link from that standpoint. And you talk about Diamador Lenore. Both of them had an interception today. Both of them played elite today. It was maybe some of the elite guys that didn't play so well. So that was actually really good to see. And I did a film review for the members last Monday on Diamador Lenore, asking the question, is he the weak link of this defense? Are they in trouble? I came away from that film review saying, no. Diamador Lenore, he's not a perfect corner. He's probably not the most shifty when he's got to change direction with his hips. I think that's where some of the issues are. But overall, play to play, Diamador Lenore is playing really, really good football, and that showed up again today. So, man, this defense right now is doing great. And it was some of the unsung heroes. It was Greenlaw that did things. Like I said, Lenore, Jimmy Ward. We saw a lot of different players making big time plays on this defense today. And man, against an offense like that, you gotta love it. You absolutely gotta love it. David says, I also donated. Appreciate that, David. Liz Frank injury on a QB is probably career ending. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on that. And I certainly don't. I don't even want to think about that. Hopefully Jimmy's career is not over. That is not at all anything that would be great. But, you're talking about a quarterback that is 31, coming off of a lot of injuries. Even if the injury itself isn't career ending, how much does he really want to continue to play? I mean, you got to imagine that kids and those types of things. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of life that he's got to worry about as well. So we'll see what he decides to do. But Lance will be cleared week 16. We'll probably play week 17. Man, I don't know about all that. You sound very confident. I do think there's a chance that Lance comes back. I don't care what anybody else has said, especially now things get interesting. But to speculate on when or whatever, I don't know. We'll see. What you talking about? Willis says the defense played the Jimmy G scheme, but to the left. Yeah, Tua struggled. I don't know what to make of Tua. I really don't know what to make of Tua. He's been playing really well, but he struggled today because he did have many open throws that he just missed.
Yeah,
absolutely missed.
And I've seen Tua. Look, I sit and watch the noon games. In the East Coast, it's 1:00 games, right? I usually watch those, walk on the treadmill for 3 hours and watch all those games. And I got the direct TV, whatever. And I watch a lot of Dolphins football. And I've seen Tua make those throws this year. Everybody's kind of ragging on a little bit. Like I ragged on Tua all day today for how he was playing today. But like Tua actually has not played poorly this year. People like acting like he's just like a product of the scheme. Like there's truth to that. Mike McDaniel's a really good coach. He's still my pick for coach of the year.
Yep.
Okay? So like the bottom line is, yeah, Mike McDaniel's is a genius. Mike McDaniel's a really good coach. But Tua has actually made those throws this year. And so today the commentators, I don't really listen to Moose Johnson that much because I can't handle him. But he was, talking about his emotions. And I don't know how else to characterize it. Like he just was in his head, or he just was misfiring. I honestly think he was like, holy shit, this shit is wide open. And I got this. And it just was too much. And he was putting too much on it. And, it doesn't help that Tyreek Hill is short.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that doesn't. But you also got to wonder. I mean, this is a man who took some devastating hits this year. And he's missing both of his tackles. He may have had time, and he did for the most part. He actually had some pretty good time on a lot of those plays and wide open receivers, but you still have got to think that's in the back of his head, man. I mean, that you're missing the two people that protect you the most, your best offensive lineman by far, and you've had two major injuries this year, and you've got a defensive line like this in front of you. You've got to imagine mentally that played into his mind as well. I mean, he's only human, All right. Let's talk about Kyle Shanahan. First of all, ballsy, gritty, gutsy performance by Kyle. Not only the fourth downs, which were absolutely crucial. One almost came back and bit him in the butt, I'll tell you that. But great decision making there. And then to challenge both of those plays on that final drive, that was the difference maker. That was the difference maker. And he got both of them right. Kyle Shanahan does it again against an up and coming former coach that used to be up underneath him. And man, he did his damn thing today. Got to give Kyle Shanahan mad love for that, especially going with the third quarterback in the middle of the game, early in the game, and finding a way to win that and put up points. And the only thing that I would say, the only thing that I wish would have gone a slightly different, and I hope that he changes this a little bit going forward, more Jordan Mason. We need more Jordan Mason. I think Jordan Mason proved that he deserves the football. He is a tough runner. He's a punishing runner. And we need to keep C-Mac healthy. So for me, Jordan Mason getting more touches, that's the only thing, the only critique that I can give Kyle. He did a fantastic job today. What's up?
No, I want to see Jordan Mason, and people can disagree with me, and maybe this is where you and I might disagree. I have, at this point, I want to see more Debo with the ball in his hands. Today, I thought Debo had one of the more underrated games of the year. He was making something out of nothing multiple times. And I'm not even talking about that play where he almost got tackled by 4 guys for a loss of 15 yards and made it into be like a loss of 4. There were so many plays. But there was one play where Christian Wilkins went out in coverage and he put the boom on Christian Wilkins. A defensive tackle. Like, the guy is just like, we want to take everybody healthy, but I think at this point, you don't want to put players in a way where you're ending their careers, right? But I want to see more creativity of it. This team has weapons. I also want to say this: Brandon Ayuk is more than capable also of getting more creative touches behind the line of scrimmage. We've seen him do this earlier in his career. We've seen it throughout. This team is so interchangeable that way. Another guy who didn't touch the ball hardly at all today, outside of a one that he almost dropped, was George Kittle. The only other time I heard his name called is when he got the holding call on Bradley Chubb. They're going to have to. Kyle is going to have to be, like you said, be ballsy Kyle. That's what I want to see. I've stand for Kyle Shanahan for so long. I have many times over, just despite my critiques, said, give this man a lifetime contract. And I firmly believe it. I don't think there's I don't think there's a better play caller in the NFL. I really don't. When he wants to be. I don't think there's a smarter mind, and that's including Andy Reid. And I'm not a homer. You know that. I believe Kyle Shanahan is the man you want on the sideline. I really do. Now, there's questions or quibbles about other things in his game. But when it comes to play calling, there's nobody that can get in his bag more and more easily and more, and use more ingenuity than Kyle Shanahan. And this, if there was ever a time to whip it out and say, this is who I am, with Mr. Irrelevant as your quarterback, people might say that's counterintuitive. Say, no, this is where you want to no. You have to play with house money more. I don't care if your defense is number 1. You're still going to have to score. So you're going to have to take some more risks. And yeah, you might end up turning the ball over here and there, some of these different places, but you've got the defense that you can trust to do that. And often than not, I think that's also going to instill a lot of confidence in Brock Purdy and say, hey, my coach believes in me. I believe in myself. Let's go. And I know that might sound like it's all rose-colored lenses as a Niners homer. I honestly think there's mistakes are going to be made, but you got to play with house money. You've said it. It's got to be house money, #house money the rest of the year, period. Every game.
Yeah, 100%. John says, sorry I'm late. Jimmy's down. Should we call Breeze? I don't know about Breeze, but somebody brought up Phillip Rivers. You can go back earlier into the show. We talked all about it. Man, Phillip Rivers is an interesting one. I think they're both interesting. We'll see what they do. Mike says, here's $2 European, it looks like. And let's see what else. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, we're good to go. Yeah, I mean, Kyle deserves all the credit in the world today, for sure. And this is what's so frustrating as a fan of the 49ers is you know what Kyle is capable of, and you see it in these glimpses. And then other times you see them put up almost no points with all these elite weapons. He's so frustrating because he does these things where he just coaches out of his mind sometimes and then follows it up with a stinker, or has a bunch of kind of mediocre games and then does things like this. I think Kyle, the one thing that I've always agreed with through all the criticism is that he is a hell of a play caller. I don't know if I'd put him above, let's say, Andy Reid. I don't know if I'm going that far. However, he is one of the best in the league. And if he is in his bag and he's feeling confident, he certainly can get things going. And, I think, again, credit to Purdy. Purdy made all those things possible. If Purdy wasn't able to hit some of those throws and do some of the things that he did, Kyle can only be so confident and can only do so much. So Purdy actually made him look really good today as well because he did his job, which was amazing to see. And we'll see if it can continue going forward.
Here's a guy that, the New York Jets right now is an interesting parallel. The Jets have now today, again, if you box score scout this game, another game that I watched most of it as I was flipping back and forth between about 3 or 4 games, watched a lot of the Jets Vikings game today. It ended up 27-22, much like the Saints Niners game, though. The Saints had many opportunities that they just failed to capitalize on. And yes, you credit the Niners D, but it could have been a lot tighter game. The Jets ended up kicking, I want to say they had the touchdown with 7. They had 5 field goals. One of them was a 60-yarder. One of them was a 40, but there were 3 inside the red zone, 3 inside the 10, 2 inside the 10. Okay. And multiple times where they went, and then there was 4th down stands that failed. The Vikings actually somehow, and the Vikings had like 200 yards of total offense. It was embarrassing.
Yep.
Okay. But the Jets have a defense. They have Mike White, who comes in for troubled Zach Wilson, Cougar Hunter himself. Okay. The idea that, I mean, props, brother. But the idea is, like this in a way is here where the parallels end. You've got Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur, 49ers, Kyle Shanahan tree, similar offensive scheme and defensive scheme. You got White Mike comes in, okay, and he's able to play football, and he's not a guy that really anybody wants. Okay, Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, nobody wanted him. Okay, the 49ers arguably have better weapons around Brock Purdy. They have a better offensive line than Mike White. Okay, they have a defense that, while the Jets are playing well, is better. And yes, the Jets are 7-5, but the Niners are a hair width away from that same record. And I think that what you're going to see is Mike White's actually played with confidence. Mike White didn't play great today. Mike White actually, though, put that team in a position to win, and it just didn't happen. The Jets probably should have won that game on the road against a team that finds ways to win, that found a way to win in Buffalo. Okay, so I think that people are going to gnash their teeth and hem and haw. I guess to me, Purdy's playing on house money. I think Kyle's going to. As a fan and a guy who watches these games religiously, I'm not that concerned. I think the Niners are going to put themselves in a position to be in the playoffs, and Purdy's going to keep growing. Now, do I think they're going to win the Super Bowl? Absolutely not. But do I think that they're going to go out there and fight? Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. I think this might be I think Kyle Shanahan might be as free as he's ever been in calling plays outside of 2017 and maybe 18. This is the freest he's ever been. There is zero expectations at this point as far as winning a ring. This is as free as it gets. So now he can go out, do his thing, call plays freely, really no pressure on Kyle Shanahan. And I think we might get the best out of Kyle Shanahan because of that. Listen, pressure is tough. And when you're expected to win and you're expected to do these things, it is really hard to go out there and play football and call plays and do all of that in tight situations. But this is a situation where there are no expectations anymore. I think we're going to get the best Kyle Shanahan as a play caller. I really, truly believe that. Spy versus Spy says Purdy's the best quarterback on the team. Yeah, I mean, Trey and Jimmy are out, so I agree.
Best guy left.
Mike says, I'm a new member. Appreciate that, Mike. I don't know if you are a field goal or a touchdown member. If you are a touchdown member, then there is extra film for you to go review. I do that weekly. Go ahead and check that out. And Luis says, why are we thinking on hire a QB if we have Lance? Oh, yeah. I don't know what's going to happen with Lance this year. Like, we're trying to worry about this year going forward. Like, it's Lance. So I'm not trying to replace Lance or anything like that. I just don't know. And we don't know if there's a possibility of Lance coming back again. People get mad when you talk about it. Oh, everybody says it's not possible. Well, I think things got pretty fucking possible after tonight. I'll say that. Without Jimmy Garoppolo now the rest of the year, I'll be interested to see what those possibilities look like going forward. I think things might have changed. We'll see.
And may I remind people, just look, I love Kyle Shanahan. Can we stop? Can we stop with the child? Like my son still believes in Santa Claus. My daughter's in 7th grade, and I had the talk with her a couple of years ago, so she wouldn't be embarrassed going into middle school. Okay. Can we stop believing in Santa Claus regarding like the things that Kyle or Jed or John or Jimmy or Trey or any other player says in front of a microphone? Guys, this is a PR business. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Can we just stop? One of the few beat writers that isn't bought and paid for is Grant. And the bottom line is that, and that's not everybody. There's a couple other guys that are reliable. But like the bottom line is it's a PR business. And people say a lot. Even Trey Lance goes full on Russell Wilson behind the mic. It's like, what does somebody ask? I'm a teacher. You go to the grocery store and somebody says, hey, what's going on up at the school? I said, I love my job. The kids are great. How's the weather? I love my job. The kids are great. That's what these NFL players do too. Okay. It's just like, and the idea is that Kyle's going to say a lot of different things. Kyle said things and done the other. Kyle said things and they've done it. And every time Kyle says something and then it happens, people are like, well, you see, Kyle said it was going to happen. But every time Kyle says something and they go and do the polar opposite, it's like, change the subject. Okay. I will say this. If Trey Lance is healthy by week 17 and there's a position open, he is going to be on the roster. Now, that doesn't mean that they have to play him. They could sit there. He gets reps. I can guarantee you this. With Jimmy out, if Trey Lance is healthy, what are you laughing at?
Look at the
hot available quarterbacks in your click link to connect. I just have to give my, you know what we need? We need to get, I need to go up my front yard, get my attractive smile going. Looks like that. And I got my 49ers helmet. I'm going to go out there, just like sling the pigskin. I'm going to make a TikTok. I'm going to see if Kyle's going to pick me up. In fact, I'm going to be in Santa Clara on Christmas Eve, and my kids and my wife are going to be there. We're staying in the hotel in Palo Alto. And if anybody's out there, I'll put me out. We can party in the hotel. The bottom line is, like, there might be, I don't know what the opportunities are going to be. If my kids don't go with me to the game, maybe I bring my helmet and I just go on and I slide over the wall. I'm lower level. I could easily do it. On the home side, who knows? But there's warm bodies out there that I don't know that Kyle's going to prioritize. So if Trey Lance is going to be, if he does end up being healthy by week 17, I think they roster him.
Yeah.
I think they do.
Yep.
Quarterback.
Yeah. Unless again, they do something crazy. They bring in a Phillip Rivers or something like that. I think the possibility is still open. Again, things change and opinions change. It's easy to say when you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a guy that you've trusted for all these years and has been on this roster for many years and the team loves, when he's healthy and playing well, it's easy to say, hey, no chance we bring back Trey Lance. It is a very different scenario when you're down to your third string quarterback, who was the last pick in the draft. And I know people are in love with Brock Purdy after his performance today. And I love what I saw from Brock Purdy myself. But I am not going to pretend like his upside is even close to one Trey Lance. Okay. I've watched Brock Purdy a lot. You've watched Brock Purdy a lot. I was talking about Brock Purdy in 2020 going into that draft as a possible third round pick if he came out when the 49ers were at 12. So trust me, I know a lot about Brock Purdy. I like Brock Purdy, but I'm also not going to pretend that he's something that he's not. Unless Brock Purdy shows me something that I have not seen from him, he's not going to be the starter of this team long term. So let's, you know what I mean? So like, let's enjoy the ride, but let's not crown him after 3/4 of good football in his first appearance. It was awesome. I love that for him. I hope he plays great, but to act as if there's no possibility that Trey comes back or this kid's already the starter and we should pay him forever. Like, let's chill for a second. Can we chill for just a second, please?
Yeah, I agree. But here's the thing. I had my buddy Ryan responded to me on Twitter, and we don't have a way to share tweets on this like Spaces, but this is what I was searching for during the game, these passing charts, and that's cherry picking to a degree. But like this is Brock Purdy's first game. This is the only thing we got to work with. So here's a game with Jimmy Garoppolo this year, going 26 of 37 for 222 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. Okay, Brock Purdy today. So Jimmy went 26 of 37, 222. I'm trying to figure out what game that was. Brock Purdy, 25 of 37, one less completion, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. And then you look at the balls beyond the 10-yard line. In that game, Jimmy had 2 balls beyond 10. Brock Purdy had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Dad, are you done with your show?
Here, I'll actually bring up the chart. I've got it right here. Hold on a second.
So
looks like David got bombarded by his son. Hold on a second. Let me
hashtag don't have kids.
Yeah. Hashtag don't have kids. Let's look at the throwing chart real quick. Hold on. Let me.
Well, as you're getting that up there, so
talk
this
about
idea.
it. Yeah.
So look, this is one game from Jimmy this year. Okay, this is Brock's game today, and what I noticed is in that game, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 balls behind the line of scrimmage for Jimmy, 5 for Brock. So this today is what you're looking at as Brock's today, and that's the 25 for 37, 210, and 2 touchdowns and a pick. Okay, the Jimmy chart is virtually identical, but less than half of the balls beyond the 10-yard line, and actually more balls behind the line of scrimmage. Okay, this is this year, 2022 Jimmy. That's Jimmy the winner. Hemi Garoppolo. Okay.
Yep.
So I think that people can say, well, yeah, this is just one game. Yeah. He was Mr. Irrelevant. Asked to step in for the greatest, one of the greatest sports franchises in professional sports for a team that has designs on the number 1 seed or number 2 seed in the playoffs. And yes, that's still available, even though the Eagles and Vikings are out there. Okay.
Yep.
And he comes in there, has balls, ice in his veins, and completely replicates Jimmy Garoppolo's average production.
Yeah. Yeah.
How on earth is this? Are we supposed to sit here and act like that's like not something that we should talk about?
Right.
Well,
right. Absolutely. I mean, that's, it's impressive to see and you love it. But again, this is the same limitations that Jimmy Garoppolo has, and the reason that they replaced Jimmy Garoppolo with Trey Lance, the same limitations that Brock Purdy has. Maybe Brock Purdy is more mobile, which I think we can agree. He's probably more fleet of foot. But I've got the chat saying, Brock Purdy's doing things that Trey never could. And stop the nonsense. I'm sorry. It's just simply not true. It's simply not true. Let's see going forward. And again, I hate this because now I'm in a position where it's like, okay, now we got to choose between quarterbacks and one's not even playing, but there's a lot of nonsense being spewed already. Like, let's stop. Let's just chill. Let's stop. Let's enjoy the game, but let's not crown the kid yet, please.
No, and my point is this. Brock Purdy is not going to be better than Trey Lance. I want people to understand this. And people could say, well, you don't know. You're speaking in absolutes. Yes, I am. Okay. And I'm also saying that Brock Purdy, though, that can come in on a moment's notice and replicate Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense shows you that Brock Purdy very well might have a ceiling that's completely identical to Jimmy Garoppolo, and he might reach that ceiling earlier than Jimmy did. And maybe that's all it is. But yet has a little bit more mobility. And that's great. And I'm not slandering Brock Purdy. And that's not even slandering Jimmy Garoppolo. It's just objectively saying what you see. And so I think that when you see this, I don't think there's really that much reason. I'd be excited. Now, do I think Brock Purdy's probably going to have a game before now in the playoffs where he potentially shits the bed? Highly likely. Okay. Have we not seen Jimmy Garoppolo do the same
And we
thing?
should give him that grace when he does.
That's what I'm saying. Have we not seen Jimmy Garoppolo do the same thing? And people say,
Yeah.
well, that's kicking a man while he's down. No, it's not. We're just talking about football players performing. We're not talking about them as human beings. We're not talking about them as like essentializing them as friends and family members and like those who like are people that you have in your corner. We're talking about just football. And the bottom and I think objectively you could box score scout these charts too. But the bottom line is I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that if we see more charts like this from Purdy, you're going to see more of these from Purdy, and they're going to look almost identical. We're going to be able to take Brock and Jimmy are going to be like doppelgangers on these charts, and you're going to guess, and we're going to these big guesses like, hey, big time bets. Who can you tell? Whose chart is this? You're not
Who's who?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is why I'm a season ticket holder, and that doesn't make me special, but I'm going to a game on Christmas Eve. I've got a trip. I'm going out to see my in-laws in Palm Springs, and we're renting a car in San Francisco. We're driving back up. It's like kind of invested in taking a trip. I'm excited to go to a game. When Trey Lance got hurt, I was deflated because I had high hopes for the season. Jimmy came in and started playing well. The team's playing well. Jimmy goes down. I'm still excited to go to this game. And I'm sorry, like at some point you have to kind of gauge by things like that to a degree. And I think I don't think most 49ers fans, from what I've seen on Twitter, I'm looking around, I don't think many people are hanging their head. That should tell you something.
Yeah.
That should tell you something, guys.
Yeah. And, maybe it settles in. Like, we're coming off of a huge freaking win here. Like, I don't know where people's emotions are going to be. Daryl says, Jesse, Flav thinks Jimmy G is Santa Claus. Y'all are giving Flav a hard time. I've seen what Flav's been saying. He's already crowned Purdy is better than Trey. I got it. But, I don't know if we have to go that hard on Flav. He's got his opinions. But one thing that I will say, Flav, listen, man, you can't not say that you're a Trey hater at this point. I'm sorry, but when we're down to the third string quarterback and now you're crowning him over Trey Lance already, you just admit it's cool. Like, it's fine. You don't have to be a Trey Lance fan. Not everybody on this fan base doesn't make you less of a fan. It's strange to, think Trey Lance is whatever after 4 starts, but to each their own. Just the quicker you admit it, the easier things will be. I'll just say that. You know what I mean? So anyways, David, thank you so much for joining me. I think we have a lot to talk about this week. The 49ers never are short of giving us content. There is plenty more to go. I'm curious to see what happens this week. Curious to see what quarterback they sign. Just curious how this conversation goes forward with Trey Lance, if at all. Appreciate each and every one of you in the chat. Anybody that donated to Make-A-Wish, love y'all. Thank you so much. You're definitely making dreams come true. Again, they are matching 5 times the amount. So, whatever you donated, it's 5 times. It is Purdy season. At least for the near future. Absolutely love it. You guys have a blessed evening. And at the very latest, I will be back on Tuesday. Peace.